Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I am your host, Alacia Singer.
I'm Duncan Sandlin. How's everybody today? How's it going, Lacey?
Well, it is going, Duncan. It's been quite an interesting week in the news. I mean, there's so much that I don't even think we can actually talk about all of it.
We can't.
But we got to get at least some of the highlights.
We got to get some of the highlights. Some of the fun stuff, though. The fun stuff. First, we got to just jump into this. So, recently, Tucker Carlson got fired not too long ago from Fox News because he had so many lawsuits and all these other problems, and then sexual discrimination and sexual harassment stuff, and it was bad, right? So they brought in Jesse Waters to fill his old time slot, right? Not to say that Jesse's as capable or smart, but Jesse Waters is equally as bad as Tucker in a lot of ways. And just to give you a sense of this, I'm going to pull up. Here's an old clip from Jesse Waters when he was working for Bill O'Reilly, and they were talking about the Chinese election. We're going to watch this real quick, just so you get a sense of how horrible this guy is.
Back in the book segment tonight, Waters' World. In the first presidential debate, China was mentioned 12 times, mostly in a negative way, especially by Donald Trump. So we sent Waters down to New York's Chinatown to sample political opinion.
Okay, I want to qualify this first. We didn't make any cuts to this. We didn't make any ads to this. We didn't do anything to this video. This was how they initially aired this on Fox News. Okay? And it's also pretty bad that it's like, we're talking about China, so I'm going to send you to Chinatown. I used to work in Chinatown. It's nothing like China. So I have no idea what they're talking about, but okay. They sent him to Chinatown.
Oh gosh, this is already off quite a start. Okay.
Oh yeah. Get ready for it. We didn't add anything to this. No sound effects, nothing. This is how they ran this on the O'Reilly Factor.
Oh boy, okay.
Is he all ready?
Am I supposed to bow to say hello?
你好，你好。
I like these watches. Are they hot?
GC Penny 398.
Do you like Donald Trump?
Yes, Hillary Clinton. Basically, it's the extension of Obama.
Who are you going to vote for?
Clinton wife.
Clinton's wife has a name. What is it?
Oh man, I'd forget it.
Snap out of it.
What do you think about Donald Trump?
I don't like it. He has a big mouth.
He can say what he wants. It doesn't really affect me, and I don't think he's gonna win. So
Trump has been beating up on China. How does that make you feel?
Speak! Why don't you speak?
Donald Trump beating up on China at the debate. Is it the year of the dragon? Rabbit? Who are you going to vote for?
I really.
Do you see how bad this is? So
Why? Just why?
He went
Why?
to Chinatown and
Oh my god.
he found some people who didn't speak English and picked on him. And then later in the video, this goes on for a while. Later in the video, he goes and gets a foot massage. And I don't know why that's relevant to any of this. And then he goes to a Taekwondo studio, which is Korean. Not Chinese. So I don't know what the relevance was there. And then he had the whole Mr. Miyagi reference, which is like, okay, yeah, way to stay with the times. And Mr. Miyagi is Japanese.
Whole, cutting to the
yeah.
Speak thing.
Yeah, because they're making fun of him.
I'm guessing that the person wasn't speaking because she did not understand, or either didn't understand the question or was struggling with the output or something. But
she probably doesn't speak English.
She might not speak any, right?
Yeah.
But maybe didn't even understand what she was being asked.
Or why she's being stopped.
Right.
Same with the old guy.
I'm sure
I bet you he didn't speak English either. So we're just picking on these people for no reason. So this guy has now got Tucker's slot, so he's perfect for it, right? He's into all the anti-vax stuff, conspiracy nonsense. He's all in, right? the racism stuff. He's all in, right? He's not as subtle about it as Tucker, but he's all in. Well, here's one of his first episodes. He had a special caller. His mom called in, and she had some things to say to him.
I wonder if he knew she was calling in or if he was just totally
he knew.
surprised.
No, he knew. Watch.
We have a very special guest on the line, a Democrat, my mom. Mom? How have you... Hello there, Mom. How have you enjoyed the show so far?
I have enjoyed the show. I want to say congratulations, Honey Bun. We are so proud of you and your accomplishments, and you've worked so hard. Now let's aim to have you keep your job.
Last night was Jesse Waters' debut on Tucker Carlson's old 8 p.m.
Oh, you know it's bad when your mom doesn't know if you can keep your job. Oh, jeez.
So this is I pulled this from the Young Turks, but we're gonna watch some of the rest of what his mom says here because she does not hold back.
All right.
Some suggestions.
Okay.
Do not tumble into any conspiracy rabbit holes. We do not want to lose you, and we want no lawsuits.
Okay.
In keeping, I have a list here. In keeping with the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. We need you to be kind and respectful. You yourself mentioned that humble is a stretch, so I get that. Use your voice responsibly to promote conversation that maintains a narrative thread. There really has been enough Biden bashing, and the laptop is old.
I just want to use this
I want to say this is funny, too, because you notice that he knew his mom was calling in, but he didn't know she was going to go off for a full minute plus on him. And it's funny because conspiracy theories, Biden bashing, racism, that's his whole brand. That's what got him this job. So for her to really just sit there and call it out, you can tell he keeps looking off to his producer like, what do I do? Because what are you going to do? Tell your mother to shut up or cut her off? You're not going to hang up on her on live television.
And he's not the one who can hang up on her anyway because, obviously some producers got her on or whatever, you know?
Well, he could tell him to hang up on her, but how bad would that look? So God, he just painted himself right into a corner.
How's he get out of this?
He doesn't. He just has to.
I mean, I have to say, I'm like, go mom. I'm kind of glad she's on our team here because she's very reasonable in her description of her hopes and expectations for him. You know,
yeah.
Sometimes these shows have a liberal come on, and they have to pick the one that's really going off, or it sounds very overly emotional. Like she's very calm and she's just very logically spelling out what her expectation is.
Well, it's still her son, so she's trying to be nice and supportive and everything, but it's like, man, I can tell the black sheep of that family is, right? Anyway, speaking of her asking him all this stuff, don't go too crazy. Don't go down any rabbit holes, conspiracy theories, nut job stuff. Don't do any of that, honey. Please don't do that. Don't buy into all that crap, right? The next person he had on his show was RFK Jr. And RFK Jr. just got tagged with saying a bunch of anti-Semitic, xenophobic kind of stuff about COVID that was complete conspiracy theory that was completely debunked. Nonsense, right? For those of you who don't know, he's trying to run for president on the Democratic ticket, but he's not gonna get anywhere. But anyway, he said this horrible stuff, but he had him on the show to have, basically back it up. But this is what he said that they brought him on the show to discuss. So this is RFK talking to a group of donors about COVID.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years. And you know, the technology that we now have to develop these we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's
pause it for a second. Now, let's just say this.
So this is the majority report. They're talking about this a little bit, but what he's essentially saying here is, and I don't know if you guys ever read spy novels or watched spy movies and stuff, but this is that kind of stuff where he's saying that we have these bioweapons that are genetically engineered to kill specific races. That's what he's alluding to. Specific groups of people. And he's saying that COVID-19 is one of those. That's what he's alluding to here. But we'll watch Sam and Emma a little bit, and then we'll watch them finish this off. But that's what he's alluding to. That's how crazy this is.
I think it is the case that in the context of bioweapons, and I don't know what we have developed, but certainly the idea that you could target bioweapons to hit people who have certain genetic traits, it's really sort of an updated version of let's give indigenous Americans
smallpox
blankets. They don't have, let's find a pathogen that they haven't developed, enzymes or proteins or, against. So that's not terribly controversial. But here he is talking about COVID. And this is really important to listen carefully here, because his statement defending his points is a bit of a straw man, if you ask me. But
into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's no argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure.
All right, pause it for 1 second, because I want to go through this slowly because this is important. There's an argument that COVID-19 is ethnically targeted. Let's be clear here. He's not saying there's an argument that COVID-19 hits some people differently based upon their genetic makeup. That's not what he's saying.
Right.
That's not inconceivable. That's not what he's saying. He's saying targeted. Targeted is a specific word, and a virus does not target something. Mm-hmm. Someone who deploys a virus targets something.
He's talking about this in the context of bioweapons, so the context makes it immensely clear that the underlying assumption that he's operating under is that COVID-19 is a bioweapon.
Well, he's saying there are...
That's what, yeah. I mean, she kind of summed it up. We'll skip through what they're saying, but I want to get through this because that's, like Sam said, it's not unthinkable that like you could develop some sort of virus that attacks people with a certain immune disorder, right? Or a certain genetic makeup. But what to target somebody based on their race is such a specific thing in a globalized world, right? Like it's different when we're talking about giving, these smallpox blankets to Native Americans because they'd never been exposed to those diseases before. Right? But now in a world where most people are vaccinated against all that stuff, it's hard to do. So, and here's a guy who's anti-vax too, RFK. But he believes that they're targeting bioweapons that are viruses at people. I mean, it's the kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, the Nazis tried to make stuff like that that would just target, the Jews and things, but no one's ever come up with anything like that specifically. You know why? Because it's hard. We're genetically not that different by race. I mean, there's not like a, I mean,
the difference is not great enough. There's not a great enough difference to be able to very easily do that, I would imagine.
There would be some sort of lethality to a specific race, right?
Right.
Especially considering the fact
that would not impact everybody else, like
right, or other groups, just as much. But it's like, especially since so many people there aren't like pure-blooded people, so you can't, we're all human, right? We can all interbreed, right? The differences are minor, right, within the genetic code on that sort of stuff. So it's like, if you're talking about somebody with like an autoimmune disorder, or somebody with, a specific skin disorder, or, people higher prone to heart disease. Yeah, I could see where you could target something towards that. But to do it by like, I want to target this to kill specifically Filipinos, I don't know that that's possible. I mean, it just seems it's such a far-fetched concept, right? But he seems to think it's possible. That's what he's talking about. So we'll skip through a little bit and get more to kind of the craziness here.
Also, like, one of the reasons also has to do with uptake.
Cases that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure of genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
Okay, so that's, I mean, I don't know that we need to go much further, because that's where it gets really crazy. He's saying the COVID-19 vaccine, the COVID-19 virus, right, is specifically targeted, right, to kill white and black people. The two groups it's not targeted at are Chinese people and Ashkenazi Jews. Not any of the other types of Jews, not Sephardic Jews or Hasidic Jews, just the Ashkenazi Jews. Now, why is that interesting? Because here's the old neo-Nazi trope, right? And this actually goes back to the Nazis. They're and this been Charles Murray and the bell curve. Ashkenazi Jews, it used to be when the old SAT scores and stuff and IQ tests, especially IQ tests, Ashkenazi Jews that as a group tended to score higher than just about any other group by a few points, right? So part of this theory that they had, the Nazis had this before, and then later the neo-Nazis, was, okay, so the blacks and the Hispanics and the Asians are all trying to take over, right, and get rid of the white people, right? But they're inferior to us. So which brings up the obvious question, which is, well, if they're inferior to us, how are they going to beat us? We have nothing to be afraid of, right? Well, so what do? But they're being led by the Ashkenazi Jews, who are smart, and they're pawns. And that's where this whole thing, when you hear Republicans yelling about George Soros, why do they name the one Jewish billionaire who was in the Holocaust? They don't name the Koch brothers. They don't name Musk. They don't name any of those other guys. It's a dog whistle. It's saying it's the Jews are coming to get us, and they're using the other races to do it. And that's essentially what he's doing here, which is why he's so popular with the right, and he's basically hated by everybody on the progressive side.
Well, and what I already noticed that he's doing, really he's spouting a bunch of nonsense, but he's spouting a bunch of nonsense disguised as information, right? He's specifically thrown in a few words and terms that sound medical and scientific,
right,
to make him sound smart, to make it present like this is actual factual information, which creates fear in people.
right.
And it, this is like classic rhetoric, right? He's trying to make it himself seem logical and himself seem reputable, and like he knows what he's talking about. And so people are just believing his nonsense because he threw in just enough jargon to sound scientific.
Right. Yep, that's it. But that's what's going on right there with that and those conspiracy theories. It's all been, everything he said has been debunked. Completely debunked. It's all BS. His presidential campaign's now in the toilet because of that. But that's who Jesse Waters had on after his mom told him don't go down conspiracy rabbit holes. And what do they talk about? Exactly that. So.
Seems like a conspiracy rabbit hole to me.
So I guess the acorn fell far from the tree at the Waters house.
Man, Mom's probably like, what happened here? What happened?
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say. Well, onward, we'll do a little bit more racist stuff going on. Let's see. Oh, Florida. So Florida passed a new education bill or education plan, and it's not going over well for Ron DeSantis. So we're going to watch a little bit about that right here.
Tonight, growing back with Florida. I just got to throw it out there. I feel like we always have an issue with Florida.
Oh, well, right now, because Ron DeSantis is running for president. And he's probably number 2 after Trump. And he's, he's the allegedly the sane one in the party. And he's just as crazy. That's why we keep going after.
Isn't that absolutely terrifying that when the sane one is like certifiably nuts?
Yeah.
Like, oh, good.
Well, he knows his base. That's what he's doing. He's playing to the base.
You remember the good old days when the Republican Party had a bunch of people we just disagreed with, but we thought they were basically all sane? You remember the good old days?
That must have been before I was born.
I'm older than you.
Backlash against Governor Ron DeSantis and the Florida Board of Education over the state's new standards for teaching the history of U.S. slavery.
These are the most robust standards in African American history, probably anywhere in the country.
The new guidelines require middle school students be taught, quote, how slaves developed skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. An idea Vice President Kamala Harris in Florida Friday lambasted.
How is it?
Shut up.
What?
I said shut up.
Yep.
So,
that's the new
policy.
Remember
that one time you were sold into slavery? Aren't you so glad you got all of these skills that would be able to be used for your benefit when you were sold into slavery?
Yeah.
Like, really? Seriously? This is what you're really trying to teach people? Oh my God.
Well, look, think about it. You learned how to pick cotton. You learned how to take 10 lashes to the back and still keep working. Those are growing experiences, Lacey. You know, you learned how to be raped by your master and still keep going. This is core building, you know, this is job building experience. That's what you're not getting. But well, this is Kamala Harris, because she's going to lay into this because it's just horrific.
Anyone could suggest that in the midst of these atrocities, that there was any benefit to being subjected to this level of dehumanization.
In high school, the guidelines require the teaching of both acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans, which Florida's Education Association says diminishes an event like the 1920 Ocoee Massacre, where at least 30 African Americans were killed for attempting to vote. A volunteer member of the task force tells ABC News he stands by their work. Amid criticism, the standards gloss over the horrors of slavery.
It is the case that Africans proved resourceful, resilient, and adaptive, and were able to develop skills and aptitudes which served to their benefit, both while enslaved and after enslavement.
I wasn't involved in it.
On the campaign trail, DeSantis distancing himself from the specifics of the curriculum, but still defending the new.
But we'll get into that in a second, because so that's the thinking. That's always been the thinking on the right. This goes back to, Thomas Sowell and all these guys, where it's this. I remember they even did this during the Trump, where you had a bunch of guys running out there saying, well, black people had it better when slavery because they got to live for free and eat for free. See, so they should be grateful. And it's like, yeah, I don't think so. You're thinking about it in like some weird context where you read a history book that said they liked being slaves or something, which clearly isn't the case.
I mean, like, what the hell kind of Kool-Aid is that to drink? It literally does not make any sense.
Nope, but that's what they believe. And that's the other thing too, is that's the other what I loved about that is, if you talk about violence against black people, like violence against slaves, you have to talk about like the violence that the black people did. So in contrast, we have to talk about the slave uprising, if slave uprisings, like these are on equal footing. Like people revolting for their freedom are on equal footing from people that are torturing them and taking their freedom.
Really, quite frankly, this just, it seems like it's supposed to alleviate white people from their racist history. Sorry, let's call a spade a spade.
Right.
People are tired of, white people are, tired of the whole white guilt thing, et cetera, but we can't pretend it didn't happen.
Right. Well,
it happened.
Well,
and the white people did it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, and I remember too, it's like, I remember that because they always do this too with like when police shootings happen, and statistically, black people are more likely to get shot by the police. It's just a fact, right? And a lot of it has to do with racism and systemic racism, and that's just a fact, right? But you'd see it on Fox, and they'd be sitting there, and they'd be talking about, well, how come we never talk on black crime and blah, blah, blah. We only talk about it when the white police officer shoots the black kid, right? And it's like, and you're sitting there like, do you realize how stupid that statement is? What you're asking is, why don't we hold gang members to the same standard as police? I mean, get the fuck out of here. It's like crazy stuff. But anyway, DeSantis, after this whole thing, because he's been pushing this anti-CRT, anti-race stuff, book bannings, anti-trans, all this in the schools. They've been pushing this really hard. They took over a university by force, pretty much, and kicked out. All the liberal kids left. It was a liberal university in Florida, not anymore. Now it's basically a ghost town. Anyway, he's been pushing all this forever, but now he's saying he's not really a part of this one because this one's getting him bad press. And that's what they were alluding to. We're going to watch this thing cover. This is a little bit of Morning Joe, and it's just ridiculous. It's running away.
DeSantis appears to be trying to distance himself from the recent changes that have been made to his state's public school curriculum. Now, last week, the Florida Board of Education approved new guidelines for teaching Black history, which suggests that enslaved people reaped benefits from skills acquired during centuries of forced labor. Reaped benefits. The move comes just months after DeSantis criticized an advanced placement course on African American studies. The changes are now facing significant backlash. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Jacksonville on Friday and slammed the new curriculum, calling it extremist propaganda. This prompted DeSantis to defend his state while also denying any personal responsibility for the new education standards.
So, a couple things real quick. So he's going to defend the state. Oh, no, we did the right thing. But I didn't have anything to do with it. So this is a tightrope he's got to walk here. On top of that, I love that they received benefits from the skills they learned. It's like, what benefits? They didn't profit from it. Slaves were not making money from their skills. You know, maybe your owner taught you how to, you know, play the violin, but you certainly weren't booking gigs and making money. He was. She was, whoever they were. So this idea that they got benefits from it, what benefits? They get a pension?
Listen.
Well, you should talk to them about it. I mean, I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is, all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education. You can talk about those folks. But, I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was...
Okay, they weren't scholars. So they weren't scholars necessarily. 'Cause I can't imagine anybody, any real academic, who isn't bought out by some conservative think tank who would say that.
I would be so embarrassed to put my name to that. What scholar in their right mind is literally going to want to put their name to that? I was the scholar that was responsible for creating these asinine racist standards.
Right.
No.
What do you teach? Oh, I teach African American studies at Harvard. Not anymore, you don't.
Yeah, no kidding, man. Because I would not want to have somebody that was responsible for creating that on my faculty.
God, no.
You know, mess up the reputation of my university. Oh my God, no way.
Yeah, it would be humiliating. But yeah, so the guy didn't do it. He's trying to distance. Blah blah blah. It's just such a big joke, and watch him try to walk it back some more. But this is so backwards because this is what he wanted, and now that it's happened, he doesn't like the result.
That was done politically.
Sure. Some Republican presidential candidates are...
I like his answer. Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah, sure. Bullshit. That's what it was sure meant.
Also speaking out against the Florida Board of Education's new guidelines, former Congressman Will Hurd wrote on Twitter this: "Unfortunately, it has to be said, slavery wasn't a jobs program that taught beneficial skills. It was literally dehumanizing and subjugated people as property because they lacked any rights or freedoms." Here's what.
Oh, that's correct, too. And I want to point that other excuse he gave out about they learned these job skills and they went and used them later in life. Later in life when they, escaped slavery? What if they never escaped slavery? They didn't get to go use these job skills.
They kept using them in slavery. For somebody else's benefit.
Yeah. Some of the ones, I guess, that got freed, after the Civil War and stuff, I guess maybe. But most of them were doing, low-level picking cotton and stuff like that. They weren't, And the other thing you got to remember, too, is slaves weren't allowed to read. Because what ended up happening was if you could read, you could probably forge your own papers back then. So you didn't want them to be able to read, because if one of them could read, they could forge notes saying they'd been freed. So we're going to skip to this. They have a guy here. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
So, Eugene, let's just start with how inaccurate and offensive some of this teaching is from the Florida new curriculum there. but also how Governor DeSantis and his anti-woke policies have put him in a box with speaking to a seemingly smaller and smaller portion of the electorate.
This is what happens when you base your entire kind of political career on this. When you say that everybody needs to be anti-woke, this is where you end up. And when you talk to folks in Florida, the whole point of the bill that came through, this is in reaction to a bill that he wanted. It was making clear what he wanted to folks. And it's because he felt, and a lot of people around this country are starting to feel, that we can't teach the correct history of this country because it makes white kids uncomfortable. That is at the base of this, right? That it is uncomfortable to hear that people that look like you put people that look like me in chains and make them do things and beat them and rape them. That is uncomfortable for kids to hear. That is what these folks are saying. But then when you use that as a political cudgel, you have to own it, right? At this point, this is on Ron DeSantis. He may not have created these policies with the school board, but at the end of the day, he made it very clear to what he wanted to the folks in that state.
Yeah, no, completely agree.
Yeah, so I agree too. He unleashed it, and now that it's out of the bag, he doesn't want it anymore. And that's all. I mean, you can't really say much more about him than that. But speaking of other stuff with DeSantis, we're going to do one more little thing with him. So we did this back a while ago. Bud Light had Dylan Mulvaney, who's a transgender influencer online. She does TikTok videos. And they had her do a Bud Light ad for them on TikTok. It wasn't like nationally syndicated or anything. It was just on TikTok, right? She did it. Right wing flipped out, boycotted Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. And they've seen some drop in shares. It's not killed them, but it hasn't been good, right? But anyway, DeSantis is now jumping on the I'm anti-Bud Light train, getting in there right in the right moment here, freaking whatever, 4 months later. But he's doing it, and here he is on Jesse Waters. I want to qualify it. Jesse Waters has this picture that Anheuser-Busch's market value is down $16 billion. Kids, I want you to understand what market value is. Market value is the number of it's the value of the total value of all the shares, right? Divided by the number of outstanding shares, right? That's basically what it is. So that's how you determine what a share is worth, right? So the market value is that total amount, right? So yeah, it's down by the total market value, but that doesn't mean they're not making money still. They haven't really lost in profit. They've just lost in what the stock is worth, right? And that's all that's happened right now. So it's kind of it's not a number that companies get ultra worried about until it really starts to affect the shareholders. But for Anheuser-Busch, it's not that big of a deal.
Bud Light went woke and first responders went broke. So Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is calling on the board, who runs the Florida Pension Fund, to sell all InBev stock. Unload Bud Light and get out while they can. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis joins me now. So, Governor, how badly did this pension take a hit?
You can't even smile.
We had over $50 million worth of InBev stock in the pension. Of course, Florida's pension fund's about $180 billion. So it's a pretty big endeavor, but it has absolutely hurt teachers. It has absolutely hurt other pensioners. And, we talk about woke corporations, and a lot of times we focus.
Okay, so here's the deal. So their state pension, right? About what did he say? About 50 million? Right? So it's not like out of, what do you say, 180 billion? It's not a huge investment, right? In fact, what it sounds to me like is it's part of probably a fund that they own. So it's not like they specifically went and bought that, right? Now, it's down. Has it really hurt the pension that much? Probably not, right? At most, it hurt it by, 4 or 5 million? Right, for 180 billion, not a big deal. But he's got to get on this because it's a hot topic right now, and he's got to look good, right? And he's got to have something going on, right? Especially now, he's got to distract from all the other shit. right? So what do? You get on the train, and he was against it from the start. He's been anti-trans, and he was angry about Disney having gay characters, and He's been on the anti-LGBTQ train for a while, right? And Jesse Waters has been too. So these are guys that push this, and Jesse Waters pushed the boycott of Bud Light that brought down the stock price. And so did Ron DeSantis and all the other Republicans. And now that it's gone down, what are they saying? Well, look what they did by going woke. They hurt our pensioners. No, you hurt your pensioners by boycotting something that was in the pension. So once again, I did it, but I don't want to take credit for it. I want to take credit for something else.
Right. I'm going to do all of this stuff and then point the finger at somebody else, being like, "Well, they did it," you know?
Right. I mean, I'm still kind of for it. I'm still kind of for it, but I mean, I wasn't me, right? So it's such a joke with him, man. So that's Rick DeSantis going, little Ricky DeSantis. He's my hero. I don't know what to tell you, but he's been on fire lately. And the other person we have
something. I mean, he's given us something to talk about, that's for sure.
Well, until his presidential campaign fizzles out here in the not too distant future, because he's not doing well. So here's the other thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody's favorite, from Georgia, representative from Georgia.
She is always doing something crazy.
Yeah, but she's having a hard time getting in the press these days, right? So she's got her upper crazy game. So I don't know if you know about this. So they had the whole thing with when Biden was running for president, that the Hunter Biden laptop, and that somehow there was Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were involved in some quid pro quo thing with China or Ukraine or whoever. I don't know, right? And it all turned out to be nothing. And it turned out that when they got the laptop and people saw what was on the laptop, it was basically this. Hunter Biden was, I don't know that he still is, but he was a pretty serious drug addict. And he had a lot of pictures of himself with prostitutes doing drugs. And they were a lot of nude photos and things like that. And he had them on his laptop. And they got a hold of that. Right? And they're trying to make it into this big scandal, but there's no connection to anything he did to Joe Biden. And the criminal things he did, were tax evasion, which he just pled guilty to. And I think he had an unregistered firearm or an unlawfully registered firearm, something like that. But that's about it. I mean, you can't, nothing that links to the president. Right? And most of this stuff happened, almost all this stuff happened before Biden, before Biden was president, but after he was vice president. Right? So this is not...
Let's just stop and say, quite frankly, who cares if he had some naked pictures of himself on his laptop?
Well, here's the thing.
I mean...
That's the problem, is nobody cares.
Who cares?
Nobody really cares. But the Republicans have had this whole investigation going on now for years, right? And it just fizzled out, and it turned out to be nothing. Just recently, a couple months ago, right? We didn't have time to cover it because it's kind of a long, boring story that ends with there was nothing there, right? But then they've been pushing all this, trying to get the Hunter Biden, dick pics out, because I don't know if they think it's going to hurt Joe Biden or not, right? And I hope we don't get in trouble with YouTube over this for terms of service. But I took this is directly from Forbes, from their YouTube channel. So if Forbes could play it, my guess is we should be okay. But this is Marjorie Greene at a hearing. I forget what the hearing was on. It was Oversight House Committee on the hearing with the IRS whistleblower about the Biden investigation, which also turned out to be nothing. And for no reason, apropos to nothing, This is what she pulls out at the hearing.
Second here. So when Hunter Biden paid for this woman to do this with him, to travel across state lines from California to Washington, D.C. on June 15th, this is a violation of the Mann Act. This was prostitution. Let me...
Okay, so she showed the pictures on his laptop in this hearing. I don't know how this relates to the IRS thing. He already pled guilty. The other thing about that is these are years ago, and the thing about it the other thing is these are nude photos of him being shown in public without his permission. So that goes against revenge porn laws. You can't show nude photos of somebody without the permission.
So, what are revenge porn laws? What's that mean?
So, like revenge porn. So, like if I show, like if there's a nude photo of you and I show it on screen right now, that would be revenge porn because I don't have your permission to show a nude photo of you, right? So that would be a crime. Now, granted, she's probably not going to get charged with a crime because she's sitting in the house, right? But, I mean, he's already, Hunter Biden's already had his lawyer, send her a cease and desist letter. I'm sure they're going to sue her for defamation. They're going to sue her. But then they'll probably sue her for the revenge porn thing. But yeah, I mean, so she's actually pointing out, yeah, he broke the law with a hooker. But she's breaking the law to show that. Right. And so this was just a horrible thing. And I mean, everybody denounced her and they ended up having to pause the hearing after this to get all of her statements and all that taken down off the record. Right. And get those destroyed. And she's just been reamed about this whole thing about that was just completely tacky and uncalled for. And these are the people, and this is one of the people that, well, we don't like drag shows because we think they're too sexual. But also on C-SPAN, where anybody can see it in front of your children, I'll show nude photos of the president's son without his permission. That's how desperate she is for attention. She's... she is so far out of the spotlight, she's just doing anything she can. And it's just sad.
Yeah, quite frankly, it's also crazy because, I mean, I guess tell us in the comments below if you care, but why does anybody care what Hunter Biden did with his sex life however many years ago and whether or not he had pictures of it? You know how many freaking people have variations of pictures or videos or whatever of things they did in their sex life? Nobody cares. And quite frankly, it's not any of our freaking business whatever he was doing in his sex life anyway. I can't care.
Right. Well, I think that she just wants attention. And two, she got really pissed because she gave a speech basically spitting on Joe Biden. And Joe Biden took her speech verbatim and he made it into a commercial for his presidency. You want to see it?
Yeah, of course.
Because she makes him
that's some funny business.
She makes him sound awesome in this speech.
Biden had the largest public investment in social infrastructure and environmental programs that is actually finishing what FDR started, that LBJ expanded on, and Joe Biden is attempting to complete programs to address education, medical care, urban problems, rural poverty, transportation, Medicare, Medicaid, labor unions. And he still is working on it.
She says that all...
Oh, that's so great.
Well, that was the funny thing is she said that in a speech, I think it was at Turning Points, like it was a bad thing. And she listed all the shit he was doing and he's been doing. And she made him sound freaking awesome. You couldn't ask for publicity like that. It's so freaking great.
I just cannot understand how she got elected. I know not everybody thinks the way that I do. I know there are people that are completely opposite of me, but even if you're completely opposite in ideology, like, she's really nuts.
She doesn't get
what. I mean, even if I thought exactly opposite, I would want somebody that was like sane and thinking the opposite. She's just out there crazy.
Yeah, Biden's doing stuff for the infrastructure. He's doing stuff for labor unions. He's out there trying to secure your Medicare and Medicaid. How horrible is that? Biden's like, why don't we use that as an ad? We couldn't have done a better job of listing it all off. I mean,
yeah.
And it makes fun of the fact that, hey, this is the opponent. The opponent doesn't want you to have any of this shit. They want to prevent you from getting any of this shit. So, I mean, she just perps the perfect, like, doof foil, like, idiot foil. Right? I mean, she's like the perfect Elmer Fudd. She falls for every trick. I mean...
Man, yeah, she'd be one you could just dangle some bait in front of because you know she's gonna like get all riled up and
yeah, just give her some
say
rope.
Something ridiculous.
Give her some rope, she'll hang herself. Well, one more thing we'll do for the news. So, because we did cover this last week, so Barbie, the Barbie movie, Republicans were very upset. It was too feminist. I guess there's a trans actor in there somewhere. It was destroying our little girls. It was PG-13. It had naughty jokes in it. I don't know how naughty they could be at PG-13, but they were naughty. And so it was woke, and Barbie was, because of that, it's woke. And as we know, things that are woke fail. They don't do well at all. So let's see how Barbie did here.
As Barbie scores the biggest box office opening of the year. Wow, the movie's success fueling ideas on how Hollywood can cash in on our love for nostalgia.
Wow. So the horrible, horrible Barbie movie that no one was going to go see is the biggest box office year of any film this year.
That's hilarious.
Opening weekend. And it was so big that all the movie theaters are sitting there going, what else can we do to cash in on this? With G.I. Joe, maybe? What can we pull up next? He-Man?
Right, Transformers.
Something. Well, we've done Transformers to death, but yeah, I mean, so that was the thing. They all thought Barbie was going to fail. Which was funny because we watched that clip and it was three women that looked like Barbies bitching about how the new Barbie was terrible.
Yeah, well, and thinking that it was targeting little girls anyway. Like, that is not their target audience. If you are paying attention, you can see that their target audience is not 7-year-olds. I mean, if you decide to bring your 7-year-old, that's on you, and I'm sure they'll take the ticket for it, but...
Yeah.
No.
But nope, that was that. I just think that was just really funny because that's been their whole thing is, you know, if you go woke, you go broke. And it's like, yeah, it hasn't really been working out for you guys. You know, like the guy said in the earlier clip of DeSantis, he's like, the anti-woke thing, this is what you go down this rabbit hole and then you get trapped. And it's like, okay, basically now all my buddies are the racists. How did I get here? That's the way you went.
Oh my god.
So
I still haven't seen that movie, but I kind of want to. I'm not gonna lie.
Barbie, okay. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it either, but I heard it was really funny. I guess there's a point where she's in the real world and she's talking to the executives at Mattel, and I think Will Ferrell plays one of the executives. And I guess she asked the question. She's like, "Well, what about Ken?" And he makes some comment like, "Yeah, nobody's worried about Ken ever." Ken is not relevant. Oh man. Well, let's do a couple clips real quick. I have one here. So Dave Ramsey, the Ramsey Show. The government lied to you again. So this was we did the whole thing about Biden's new student loan plan, the SAVE plan, and how it reduces it to 10 years and it reduces the income-driven repayment and the amount you have to pay and all that. And we were making fun of Jade Warsaw, whatever her name is, because she kept screwing it up and saying it was 25 years and that it was bigger and da-da-da. Anyway, so I guess she got reamed out a bit and Dave had to jump on his white stallion and come to her rescue. So we're going to watch them. This is how the government lied to you about student loans. You ready? I said, are you ready? You there?
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Well, Jade, if you go on vacation for 3 weeks, stuff happens while you're gone.
Yeah, a lot happened while you were gone.
So first thing happens, Supreme Court rules and says President Joe Biden does not have the power to forgive student loans. The second thing that happens is Joe Biden came out with an announcement that they were
First off, the Supreme Court did not say the president does not have the power to forgive student loans. That's not what they said. What they said was they didn't buy his justification under the HEROES Act that he could do a loan forgiveness this big. Now, if what he said was true, when Bush forgave student loans under the HEROES Act, that would have been illegal. Right? But that's not what happened. So already...
Right. Once again, he's misrepresenting what happened already.
Right. Already, we're what? We're 24 seconds in and he screwed this up. So let's see how much more we can go. Gosh. So that was wrong already.
Forgiving a bunch of student loans, which was actually a complete falsehood because the student loan process already involved forgiveness for people that did the PLC public service process, and it was 10 years, and now it's going to be 25 years. And
okay. Now, God, wow, there were a bunch of lies in that one. So, you know the PLC loans, Lacey. You're familiar with PLC loans, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's not a thing. He thinks he's thinking of PSLF. PLC is not a thing. I looked it up because I was like, am I mistaken? Is there a PLC loan? No, there's a Perkins loan but there's a PLC.
No, he's doing.
There's a loan company called PLC. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say he's just lumping some things together and calling it the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But in the process, he's being super confusing. Yeah, he's screwing it up and he's being confusing.
Okay, so then he says, all right, so first off...
He must be talking about the public student loan forgiveness program.
He's talking
That's the only thing I can assume he means. Yeah.
He's talking about the SAVE program, first off, right? Okay, so the SAVE program, there were people that were in the SAVE program for the 20 to 25 years, right? That happened. I think that happened to the Clinton. And yeah, that happened to the Clinton, and they were in that for that. But then Betsy DeVos denied all those people when they were entitled to actually get loan forgiveness, right? Biden just said, we're now authorizing all this loan forgiveness, right? So we're forgiving whatever this is, $39 billion in loans, right? Now he's saying, well, he lied because that was already on the books. I'm like, yeah, but it hadn't been enforced. So he is not exactly lying when he says, no, we're actually going to forgive it because I just ordered them to go ahead and forgive that. So now he is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you know what? Ramsey was so confusing when he said that. I automatically thought that he was lumping it in with the public student loan forgiveness. I thought that was the set of loans he was talking about because he screwed up.
But the public student loan forgiveness, that was a different program that they were doing. So that program had been backed up because, as you remember, it was under the Trump presidency. It was only 4 or 5% of qualified applicants.
It was actually down to 3.
Yeah. We're getting them. DeVos was denying everybody, and then when Biden became president, that's one of the first things they fixed. It took them about a year, but that's been going on. I know because I just got a couple clients PSLF loan forgiveness last year.
Right.
So that was an older program.
My point.
Go ahead.
My point. I know that there are separate programs. My point is that he's already screwed this up out of the gate enough to where when I was listening, I thought he was screwing up the name, but I thought he was talking about the loans that are in the PSLF program. That's what I thought he was talking about as he's screwing it up. But he's obviously screwing it up already so much out of the gate. He's wanted to make this big commentary about the loans, but he doesn't even know which loans are which and which program is which.
Right. So he's saying, like you said, he's implying this is the PSLF thing, but no, that was handled last year.
Right.
Okay. It's actually part of the income-driven repayment, the old income-driven repayment program from years and years ago, right? And that's what he's forgiving now, right? Now, the other thing he screws up is he calls it a PLC loan, which is not a thing. If it is, please let me know in the comments, because I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out what he was talking about by PLC loan. The only thing I could find is there is a private student loan company called PLC, but that was all I could find. So I don't know what he was talking about. I think he just misspoke. But then
I was assuming he misspoke and he was talking about the public student loan forgiveness program and just didn't know what to call it.
But then the next thing he says, and this is the same mistake Jade made when we criticized it last time, which is they've extended the program from 10 years to 25 years. Now, we don't know which program he's talking about, but that's...
Yeah, what is he talking about?
But what actually happened was the IDR program under Biden, and it probably won't happen until next year, they're going to reduce it from 20 to 25 years to 10 years. So they're reducing the amount of time you have to pay on that program, not increasing it.
It's going the opposite direction, assuming they're talking about what was known as the income-based repayment forgiveness, now sort of getting revamped into the SAVE program and reduced. Yeah, but it's going the opposite direction.
Right.
Assuming that's what they're even talking about. But what the through line is here is that whenever they go on and they start talking about these things, they're being very confusing, and I assume it's because they don't really know what they're talking about. But in the process, people like you, myself, and I'm sure other listeners start assuming they're talking about they must have misspoken. They must be talking about blank. So we're trying really hard to apply logic to what they're saying. Because I was assuming that they were talking about one thing, and you were thinking maybe they were talking about something else because they're literally just not saying it correctly.
No, and that's the thing that's so funny to me is because here we are, we're 40 seconds into this video, and we're still trying to figure out what the hell he's talking about because it's all back asswards. I mean, he's screwed this whole thing up. I mean, I don't think these two could find their asses with both hands if they tried. They've got this all messed up.
But definitely, you should be listening to them about your money because
they know what they're doing.
A very great idea, right? They don't even know what the program is, what the loan is, but definitely they're the answer.
Yeah, but they know the government lied to you, yet they don't even know what they're talking about. Okay.
They don't even know about what.
Yeah, they don't know about anything.
You just went on a rant last week about that, which has now got over 300,000 views.
That's right.
Because you got it all wrong.
So
it's not the same forgiveness, guys.
It's not student loan forgiveness at all.
No, it was.
By the way, of the people that signed up for that when it was a 10-year program that are now coming up on 10 years, almost no one has gotten, less than 5% of the people have actually gotten the forgiveness. So one more time, the government
once again,
And again, he's also spouting old information that was happening under DeVos and the Trump administration.
Right, not what's happening now.
No longer applicable now. It's literally not even applicable now. I mean, it's a part of the history of this program, and it shows why it needs to be revamped.
Right.
Because it was, you know, all the red tape was proving problematic for people. But he's literally, if you're paying attention, building a case for why the revamping of these programs is necessary.
Yeah, and I don't think the PSLF program...
And he doesn't even know it.
The PSLF program hasn't changed. What he's talking about, and what he said, oh yeah, the people that should have gotten after 10 years, no, that was 20, 25 years under the old income-driven repayment program, which is what we're talking about, which is what Jade fucked up last time when we talked about this.
But what he's doing is he's trying to spout the information from the rejections on the PSLF program that were happening under DeVos. So, like, again, he is combining these things.
And taking the worst parts that he wants.
Smoke and mirrors. Yes, he's taking the worst parts of all of the things, putting them together, packaging them like they're one thing, and then spreading a bunch of, like, frustration and fear that, like, people aren't going to get what they're supposed to be getting, etc., by splicing these things together that, well, he's taking, I guess we could maybe credit him with taking some things that are true that happened historically, but he's packaging them completely incorrectly in a very deceptive manner.
Right. So let me just,
very deceptive.
Real quick before we continue on, simplify this for everybody at home. PSLF was the public servant loan forgiveness program.
Public student loan forgiveness.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is if you were a teacher, you worked for a nonprofit, or I think civil servants, and you worked for 10 years and you paid on your loan every month for 10 years, 120 payments, right? For 10 years, you were eligible to get your loan forgiven. I mean, there are other factors to
whatever remained.
I'm simplifying, but whatever remained, you were eligible to get it forgiven. So if you paid $18,000 on your loan, but you owed $60,000, that other $42,000 would be forgiven. Right? Now, that hasn't changed. Okay, what's changed here is there used to be a program where you pay whatever your minimum payment or the income-driven repayment, right? And if you paid it every month for 20 to 25 years, right? So 240 plus months, right? And you did pay it every month, you could be eligible to get it forgiven after that time frame if you still owed on it. So for him to sit there and say that's not student forgiveness is bullshit. That is student forgiveness. They're forgiving you what's left. Right? What Biden's saying is we're going to reduce the minimum payment you do on those plans, the income driven, the minimum payment plans, reduce the amount you have to pay every month. We're not going to charge interest on top, so the loan's not going to grow at all, right? Beyond what you borrowed. And furthermore, we're going to reduce that from 25 years to 10 years that you pay it. So you're basically getting the same deal that the public student loan forgiveness is. What he's doing is conflating what they used to be in the past and trying to say that's what's going on now, and it's not. And when he talks about people didn't get that in the past, he's talking under Trump when they denied everybody. Why? Because the Department of Education is under the executive branch, like the Army or the Marines, right? The Department of Homeland Security, the Post Office. So the president actually oversees the Department of Education, right? So if Trump says, yeah, block all the student loans, Betsy DeVos is going to block all the student loans. But if the president says, no, I want you to forgive all the student loans that you can, that's what you got to do as the head of the department, right? You're obligated. So that's what's going on. That's what he's missing. So to sit there and say he's not forgiving loans, they are forgiving loans. They're just using the old programs and revamping them to make them more affordable going forward. But that's what they totally miss from this whole thing. And it's amazing that we're a minute in and they still can't figure this out. But now everybody at home knows.
lied to you, whether they're Republicans or whether they're Democrats. It doesn't matter. You can tell they're lying about the student loan issue if their mouth is moving.
That's right.
And then this comes out today, and this one is not as maddening from the Daily Wire as it is sad.
Well, this is sad because this is about you, the people.
First
a third
off,
of student.
The Daily Wire is a right-wing rag. It's run by Ben Shapiro. I wouldn't trust what comes out of the Daily Wire. It's one of those where the very anti-feminist, very like racist, anti-trans shit comes out of there. We're one of the papers that railed against the Barbie movie. That's how they were pro DeSantis for a while there. So not exactly a news source I'd be trusting.
Loan debt holders spent the extra money that they thought would be wiped clean. So we know, I'll just read this. The poll by intelligent.com surveyed 977 people who would have qualified for at least $10,000 of relief under Biden's plan. Now, we know that was struck down, but, we've all talked about this. So many people thought, I'm going to get this forgiveness, Dave. Or people whose loans were paid off. They got that refund back of $10,000 and they thought.
And they didn't
get it. They spent the money.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that. So they're talking about a whole separate thing where from a survey they saw of 977 people. I love this. They always pick like a survey that doesn't even give you a good stat,
Dear
right?
Slippery Slope.
977 people out of 40 million. It's not giving you an accurate picture. And then they're going to sit there and say, well, these people...
on top of it, what are they talking about?
Well, they're saying these people thought they were going to get the $10,000 student loan relief, so they spent the money. Right.
But then she just went on and said that they got their refund checks and spent them.
Some people got...
What refund checks?
Some people did get advanced refund checks on accident. That was an error on the Department of Education's part. That's what she's talking about. But that was a mistake. That was just a ministerial error. But the bottom line is that it's a moot point because
I was going to say I didn't think they'd even processed any of that yet.
Well, here's the deal. You guys were against student debt relief at all. And now that these people didn't get it, now you're saying, well, see, they were stupid. They should have listened to us. And it's like, well, yeah, but you guys are the ones fighting against them getting it. That's the thing is you're fighting against people getting this. And then when they don't get it, it's ha ha, nanny, nanny, boo boo. It's like, it's the whole quit hitting yourself gag, Remember with the, bully grabs your arms and makes you hit yourself? That's what they're doing.
Right.
So it's just pointless at that. But either way, I think we got the point across there. They didn't have any clue. They don't know what's going on. They couldn't figure out which way was up. Honestly. I'm surprised.
Well, just listening to them was so confusing because they were trying to combine all of these separate things as if they're one thing and rolling them into like one package like the same. It was actually really very difficult to listen to because they were not separating these things at all.
Well, they clearly didn't read anything.
Constantly like, what are you talking about?
Right. It's like we always say, they never read. They clearly didn't read any of this stuff. Because it's not that hard to understand what the basic plan is. Biden's laid it out several times. In fact...
Right, but it's people like them that actually cause more confusion with people among what these plans are. Because I know all three of these plans pretty well. I've read a lot about them. I help clients with them. And I've been confused for most of this clip, being like, what are they even talking about? Because they're trying to take all the worst of all of these things and smoosh them together and act like it's one thing. So I'm like, oh, they must be talking about this thing. No, they're not. They're grabbing all this random stuff and shoving it together.
Yeah, which is, and it's all bullshit. And everything they said was bullshit. So here we'll just so you guys, in case you don't believe us, here's the New York Times on the Biden new student loan debt plan costs and everything. So basically they figure it'll cost the government about $475 billion over the next decade, so about $47.5 billion per year. So not super expensive. The new repayment plan, announced last year and completed this month by the Education Department, offers borrowers a new option that caps payments for undergraduate loans at 5% of the borrower's income. So they've reduced the amount that they can require you to pay to 5%. It used to be 10. After the borrower's made payments for either 10 or 20 years, the term depends on the size of the loan, any remaining balance will be forgiven. So 10 or 20 years, depending on the size of the loan. So they've reduced it from 20 years to some people can get it for 10. Right? He kept saying it was the other way around. That they extended it to 20. No, they reduced it from 20 to 10, which is going to be for most people. Right? So the idea being, if you're, a young person, we did this last time, you get out of college, you're 22, you start paying your 5% of your, it's 5% of your discretionary income, so not, whatever that is. You pay that every month until you're 32. And then depending on the size of your loan, you should be able to get all of your loan forgiven. So for most people with just a bachelor's, that's your whole loan.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, so you could have your loan paid off in 10 years, kids. Why don't you call your, millennial uncle or Gen X uncle and aunt and see what they think of that? Because they're going to tell you some horror stories about how they've been paying on it since they were your age and they didn't get any of that. So, God, it's just ridiculous. Well, we'll do one more clip here from Dave. We'll do this as a cage match, okay? We'll close with a quick cage match. All right. The title of this one is, let me see, Why Teachers Consistently Become Millionaires. I'm dying to see the answer to this one. Did you know that teachers consistently become millionaires? How much do you want to bet it's got something to do with his bullshit study? All right, here we go. Cage match time.
Today's question comes from Brad in Idaho. Why are teachers consistently in the group of people that become millionaires? Now, I'm going to add to this question. He's referring to the Ramsey Solutions study, the largest group of millionaires ever done, over 10,000, and they were.
First off, it's not a study, and it's not founded, and all the conclusions are crap. So we can brush that off real quick.
And I'm just going to already throw out there what my prediction is that they're going to say. At least one thing that they're going to say is they're going to talk about how teachers are process oriented and how teachers have the discipline to plan backwards with the end in mind and yada yada. They're going to talk about how process oriented teachers are in terms of their habits, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I don't know how you prove that.
You can look confused. They're going to talk about it.
I don't know how you can prove that has any effect on anything, but okay.
In the top 5 school teachers of Net Worth Millionaires is what he's referring to. He goes on to say, is it because they marry well and have a spouse with a better income, or is there another reason? Are there other career fields I should look into that consistently make it into the millionaire club? I can't wait for Dave's take on this. I'll tell you one thing that I believe is absolutely a reason that teachers are in that group is because they are missional. They care deeply about their role. We also found in that same study that 96% of net worth millionaires love their work. And in the teacher case, they're very dedicated to be instructors. They care deeply about serving kids. And they've chosen work that is meaningful to them. And thus, they've decided that what they make is enough. And they've made the choices to live on less than they make and choose a lifestyle that actually supports their work, not the other way around. And I think...
Yeah, but teachers are also leaving in droves right now. After COVID, a ton of them retired. You have teachers fleeing Florida like it's, like the 10 plagues are coming. A lot of people are quitting teaching because it doesn't pay that much.
Because the 10 plagues are coming.
Yeah. But a lot of just all around the nation, there are less and less teachers. People are quitting because there's no real future in it anymore. So he's talking about something that's historical.
Well, what he's also doing is he's also pumping his book because that's a part of what his platform is and what he thinks will get people to, the career paths that they want to be on, etc. So in a sideways way, he's pumping his own material, his book.
Yeah. Okay. But it's still he's talking about something.
All right. Let's see.
It's more. I mean, historically,
let's
that
see
might
what
have
Ramsey
been
has to say.
Closer. I don't know that Ramsey's even in this one, but we'll.
Oh, I thought he was in it.
It's about deep meaning and purpose, and thus they've been disciplined, and they're very methodical, and I think that's a part that plays too. Dave, would you add to that? Or does that square with you? I think that's true of any outcome.
You called it. Oh, Dave is in this one. You called that. Yeah.
Yep, and he's just going to go back in and reinforce exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
We got the data in. It was interesting to us. The top 5 career fields of the millionaires in the largest study of millionaires ever done in North America. Number 1 was engineer. Number 2 was accountant. Number 3 was teacher. Number 4 was business professional, which can mean almost anything. And number 5 was lawyer. Medical doctor didn't even make the top 5. They're number 6. And they are stereotypically worse with money than music artists. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so not all, in other words, not all of them, but I'm saying the stereotype is there for a reason. So what we figured out is that, okay, why do these 5 land there? And even if we look at further down the list, why do some of these top, what are they having?
Well, I can tell you right now. I mean, we just pick 2 examples. We just picked teachers and doctors, right?
Doctors are not in their top 5, so.
No, I know, but I can pick those as 2 comparatives, right?
Oh, sure, okay.
Sure. First off, when I started out, I worked with a lot of civil servants. I worked with a lot of teachers. That's what I did. Was I worked with them on their pensions and their savings and whatnot. So I used to, for 3 years there, I drove around from school to school to school doing that. That's what I did 4 days a week. So I know a lot of teachers. I've helped a lot of teachers retire. And a lot of them did retire close to that stat, close to $1 million or whatnot, blah, blah, blah. I can tell you the things. A lot of them were married. Not a lot of single teachers are retiring at that. But the one thing that they had, and this doesn't apply anymore. This applied to the older teachers. It doesn't apply to younger teachers anymore, newer teachers, is they had a pretty awesome state pension. That was where most of their money was. So what happened is you become a teacher, right? Fairly young age, mid-20s, whatever it is, right? They do that job for 20, maybe 30 years. I think 21 years was average. But every month in the state of Oregon, I can tell you how it works here. The state of Oregon, 6% of their paycheck went into their pension. Now, at the same time, the state had to match 6%, that 6%, that full amount into their pension. So they got a matching there, right? It all went directly into the pension. Now, the teachers that were hired before, I think it was 97, before, back in the 20th century, right? The ones that I dealt with a lot who were retiring, if they signed up in the 90s or before, they got a deal where they could take either the variable option where it just went up and down with the market, or they could get guaranteed 8% return every year, regardless of what the market did. So what did everybody do? They took the guaranteed 8% because you'd be insane. Because it doesn't matter how bad the market gets, you get a guaranteed 8% in that account, right? So during recessions and stuff, it really screwed the state because the state didn't have the money to cover it. So the taxpayers end up having to pick it up, right? But then they also got another bonus. It was called the matching program, okay? So in a pension, right, you can you can do a couple things. Usually you can cash it out and just take the money and then put it in like an IRA or something and then spend it in retirement. Or you can annuitize it, which means they basically say, we assume you're going to live X amount of years. This is the total you have in there, right? So we're going to divide the total you have in there by the number of years you have left to live. And we're going to figure that's what we're going to pay you every year until you die. Well, there were two things about that. If you chose to annuitize and you were one of these people that got the older pensions, one of my clients, the older people retiring, and you chose to annuitize, they would match it dollar for dollar, whatever was in that account. So if you'd worked there for 30 years and saved $300,000 in that account, right, half that money was put in by the state, and you got your guaranteed 8%. The state would go, okay, well, we'll double that and make it $600,000 and annuitize that, and you can live on that amount of money. And the idea was a lot of these people were living on the exact same amount of money they were making when they were working in retirement, and it was guaranteed till they die. But they also screwed up on some of the other stuff. So a lot of these teachers got these awesome pensions for years from all these different states. So when they retired, they had $600,000-$700,000 in pension. You add that to their house, now their net worth is $1 million. Now they don't have that in cash, but they're getting that paid every month and it's guaranteed. That's how that happened, right? The problem is if you're a cop or something like that, you had a different pension, right? You know who got the best pensions? Judges, senators, congressmen. Why? Because they get to vote on what they get in their pension.
Right. True.
Right. None of those people are in this study, by the way.
Let's
go ahead.
Oh, once you're done, let's go on and let's hear Ramsey prove me right again too.
No, he will. Let me just finish this real quick. But that's my whole point. Is that's why they do it. Now, physician on the other side, let's say a doctor, by the time you finish school, residency, you're what, 30, in your mid-30s? Right? And you probably owe, God, $500,000 in student loans. Now, granted, you're making a lot more money than a teacher, you know, probably 7 or 8 times what a teacher's making. But at the same time, that's all cash in hand, so it's easier to spend. As where most of a teacher's money is automatically being put into an account for them without their choice at all.
Well, then let's add to it that because I am a teacher, it's one of the things I do for a living. In addition, right, I don't have any vote at all about what automatically comes out for my pension. That is just done.
Nope. It's handled by the state.
But we also have retirement accounts that we can opt into.
Sure.
And most teachers take advantage of doing those, just like your average person does a 401k. Now, it may or may not be large amounts, but teachers opting into those as well, is already translating into those higher numbers in terms of net worth once they hit retirement, because most teachers are electing into those optional savings programs too.
No, that's wrong. Because and then let me tell you why. Because anymore, those pensions don't work like that. Anymore, a teacher.
I'm not talking about the pension.
No.
I'm not talking about.
I know you're talking about the 403b. I used to sell them. I know very well how it works. I'm telling you, though, the 403b has now become a necessity for teachers to having to start saving on their own because the pensions don't cover as much. As where the pensions used to cover 80, 90, 100% of your income in retirement, they now cover roughly 25 to 30, if that. And that's after you've worked 30 years. So you have to do most of the saving on your own, just like a person in a private job or a corporate job or whatever. So that's where that's gotten screwed. So this idea that these teachers, or millionaires, you're talking about the old guard. Teachers today, teachers in the last 20, 22 years, whatever it is, 23 years in this century, don't get any of that. Why? Because the pensions were all overblown and the states can't afford them. So the teachers today are working to pay for the older teachers who are getting inflated payments. That's what's going on.
I'm going to tell you, my pension is still pretty great. But I work for one of the largest school districts in the country, so
right.
That might be why. But
I'm telling you what happened nationwide.
But our pensions, sure, that's just not necessarily the case across the board, because teachers, even in my tier, newer teachers where I'm at, their pensions are good.
It's the case in general, which shows why his study would show that. Right? It's not a study; it's a survey. But that's why it would show that. That technically they are millionaires on paper, but that's only because the state has saved the money and invested the money for them. They didn't do it. The bulk of that money comes from the state for those older teachers. Younger teachers don't have that as much anymore. So this idea is, if you're a doctor, you've got to save your money on your own and figure it out on your own. As where here's a guy who's very anti-state, but these millionaires that he's talking about, well, it's because they're so disciplined and whatnot. Well, where's the discipline coming from? The state takes the money forcibly and invests it for them. That's where their discipline is coming from. That's the joke here. To sit there and go, oh, they're just so knowledgeable and disciplined. No, they're being forced to invest into these pensions. That's how they got these huge pensions, and it doesn't apply to younger teachers anymore. But we'll carry on with him. But that was kind of my point.
I'm still going to disagree, but I'm not applying to younger teachers because I'm a younger teacher and my pensions.
I'm talking in general, not you specifically. Talking in general over many states. I don't know what it is in New York, but I know that in most of the West Coast states and the Midwest states, that happened. And they're overdrawn.
Remind me not to move to one of those states.
Yeah.
Common. And what it does disprove is that your income causes you to become a millionaire for $100,000. So it's not your income. In other words, you can't earn your way out of stupidity. So what does an engineer, an accountant, a lawyer, a business professional, teacher have in common? And I think you hit it on the head when you said method. They are systems people. They work with a set of principles, and they don't have free reign to make up their own rules.
That's the thing, though, is that of those groups, the only one group that's forcibly having their money invested and saved for them, right? And to sit there, you can't earn your way out of stupidity. But yeah, you can if you make a ton of money.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I know plenty of people that are higher earners that do things on a regular basis with their money that I might think is kind of dumb, but they earn enough to be able to get away with doing dumb things and still do fine.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they could do better. Maybe they made different choices, but they are out earning their own stupidity.
Yep. Buy Twitter and still be a billionaire.
Right?
All right, we'll watch
just for an example, random example.
Watch a few more minutes of this.
When you're a lawyer and you go before the judge, you have to follow exact procedures, even exact ways of addressing the court. If it pleases the court, Your Honor.
That's not true. They have procedures, but you don't have to follow. It's not like it's rigid. It's pretty flexible in court. That's why they're always negotiating.
You don't talk to humans out the gas station that way. It's a set of procedures that you use. There's a proper set of motions and you don't have a choice. You don't get to, well, I'm creative. You're, old man in the robe. You don't get to say that. Okay. You get to say, if it pleases the court, Your Honor. I mean, you don't have a choice in this. You don't have a choice when you're an engineer designing a bridge. There's basically one way. Otherwise it falls. Yep. And accountants don't say, well, this is creative. They call that embezzlement.
Yeah,
It's like, right? And so accounting is a set of generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP, and the process of doing accounting. There's one process, and you submit yourself to proven principles and methods to be successful in any of those careers, and money works exactly the same way. Right. You have to submit yourself to...
Okay, I'm trying to figure out where he's going with this. He's just saying that money, there's only one way to handle money?
Where he's going with this is that he is suggesting that the people that become millionaires, particularly talking about teachers in this study, will literally submit to the rules of a process and do that, and that's causing them to be rich. And then what the parallel is if you just submit to his rules and his processes, you're also going to become a millionaire. So it's a sideways way of looping back to his own thing, trying to utilize his theory that teachers and other people on this list are process-oriented people who will commit to a particular process and just do that.
Right. No.
But also, he's kind of insulting them all and saying none of them can think for themselves.
Yeah, you guys are idiots.
Yeah, and note all of these areas, all of these 5 groups of people are people with advanced degrees, like highly educated people, and he's basically saying that they all don't think for themselves.
Which is also funny,
which I take offense to.
Well, which is also funny because here's the guy who's anti you going to college unless you can pay for it out of pocket. I mean, but yeah, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to watch from this, or? No. I'm good. I'm good. Well, that was pretty much everything for the show today. Good work, Lacey. Where can everybody catch you?
All right, as always, you can find my material on mysenseofsense.com. You can find my courses. You can find information about workshops that I do and articles as well. You can write in about those or to make topic suggestions. Or, geez, if you find some clips you'd like us to respond to, send them our way. Where should they send those?
You can send them to our email at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. It's below. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Thank you.